Why don't we start now, Ted?
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I'll wait for the on air. This is a Communication Commission meeting on March 14th, and I would like to call the meeting to order at 7:04. All righty. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? And would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda? Second? And all in favor? Aye. Unanimous. All righty. The agenda has been approved. Now, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the February 8th meeting of the Communication Commission? Are there any additions or corrections? If not, do I have a motion to approve? Pam? And second? Craig. Okay. All in favor? Aye. And unanimously approved. All righty. Okay. I'd like to start with our unfinished business, the review and finalizing of the website survey. I sent this out with the agenda, and I'm wondering if everybody had a chance to take a look. And are there any suggestions, any additions, deletions? We're an open book, guys. Whatever you want, we will do if you think it's helpful. Pam?
Well, I think it's well done. I like the idea of strongly agree all the way to strongly disagree. So you've got a range of comments. I would like to see it all on one page.
Well, that might be done by the publishers. We're going to hand them the file, and Tim Rooney has told me that they will make it work. The thing is, whatever we put in, they will have there will be 2 pages. So it's not, they're going to have it perforated so that it can be ripped out. And what I suggest, if everyone agrees, there will be 3 locations to drop this off: the rec department, the township hall, and Centennial Farm. I will make up boxes. I will bring them here next month, show you what they look like. They'll be very colorful. We'll promote the heck out of this box. We'll get it, I'll get something written in the newspaper. We'll make a big deal out of this box, make it colorful and fun. And
will there be a deadline?
Yes, there will be, and I was going to discuss that later. If you want it to be 2 weeks to a month, what would everybody think is good? Sean?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the question. You have in the minutes from last month, it says here, finally, under 5A, finally have the survey made into a postcard size insert with a business reply. I'm a little concerned a 2-pager into a postcard is actually going to be extremely difficult for someone, A, to read, and B, to actually write meaningful responses where they're asking for other comments.
And thank you for that. That brings up a point that I researched that issue. And one of the things, I thought it was a great idea, except we couldn't do that big a thing. But the cost was prohibitive. You have to have a singular use permit, and that would be about $360. So if we received one item, it would be $360.44. So it's price prohibitive, and I wanted to bring that. I did research it, so I'm back to the original plan, that it would be just an insert with a perforated insert in channels, so that they can rip it out and stuff it in, and that's why. But thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
All right. So anyways, anything else, Pam?
No,
Anybody else? Questions, concerns?
enough to go with it.
I'm really excited about this because it seems that there's a lot of talk right now about what is the opinion of different people about the website, and I think our timing is really perfect. We will get something, we will have it back probably by the end of May, beginning of June. I have contracted a retired Big 8 CPA who works for free, my husband, to do all the collating and tabulating, and it'll be ticked and tied perfectly. We'll know exactly what information we've gotten, and then we can analyze it to our heart's content. So I thought that would be, useful. Yes, ma'am?
My question is, would it be possible to have copies of this?
Okay. My question is, would it be possible to have copies of this survey at these locations where they're turning them in, so that if someone just, is there to maybe, sign up for a class for the recreation department, let's say, that they could have an opportunity to fill it out without taking another copy of the channels, or...
Sure, and quite honestly, I don't think they're going to take 50 and play. They're going to take one, and that's great. That's a great idea. We'll add that to our topics. So the more information, the better. I think it was like 253 we needed to get a 95% confidence. And if we go out to 5,000 households, it's households and P.O. boxes. So if we get a couple hundred back, we are in great shape to really know what the community wants of us, and that's where we're going. So if you have no further questions or concerns, would somebody like to make a motion that we proceed on this?
I'll make that motion.
Sean? All righty. Well, that's done then. Great. We put that to bed, and we're moving forward. I will have this to Tim Rooney by the 1st of April. I think his requirement was the 15th, but I wanted to make sure we got it there early. And we'll go from there. Okay.
And do we want to set a deadline to get
Yes.
the responses back?
What would you consider acceptable?
A month?
When is it going on?
Whenever it does go out, why don't we do a month after we feel it's hit the households?
That's correct.
That's fair? Okay, so we'll do a month after, and...
Chair,
Yes.
I talked to Tim Rooney today about another issue that is going in the channel, and he said he wants the material in by the 1st of April, and he's hoping to go out by mid-April.
Okay, well, we're on track. I'll see him this week then. And we'll go forward, and we'll have a cutoff date of that period, and we'll put that on the box, and that's what we'll promote, and I had one other idea, and I'll talk about it in the chairman. Well, I can talk about it now. I figure the way we can get some participation is we could have a little, Ted, you'll be involved in this, we could be sitting around and be taped for about 5 minutes saying, hey, we've got the survey coming in, and talk about it as a group, so the commission gets involved, requesting them, and then at the end, we can have the commission all say, we need you to participate, or something like that. It's hokey, but it might really get, you look, you'll laugh.
That's right.
It might get them say, oh, well, what the heck, I'll help, help us out, give us your, tell us what you want. And we can do that next month at the beginning of the meeting. It'll take like 5 minutes, we'll leave it and everybody just all of a sudden say something like, we need you to participate.
And not do a special program?
No, just a little vignette.
Okay.
Quick snippet.
Yeah, quick second, and Ted could intersperse it some places if he so chooses, if we look good. And I just thought it'd be kind of funny, and anything to get...
He doesn't look very excited.
Aren't you excited, Ted? Okay. Well, anyway, so...
Just raising his arm with enthusiasm.
There you go. That's what I wanted. But I thought it was just something, what the heck, why not do it? Okay, let's move on then. We've done pretty good. We'll do it a month after. Now let's look at the budgets. And Ted passed out some information. We have lots of budget reports. Let's take a look. Budgets. Do you want to talk first, Ted? Yeah.
I'll just give you the background.
Okay. And Ted, why don't you speak?
Okay, what I handed you is there's two budgets there. The first one is the budget that I prepared and worked on and presented in front of Brian Loftus, Anita O'Connor, and Ted Van Oss, Ann Darsnick, and Dale Rayum on Wednesday about 2 weeks ago. The second budget is a budget that was brought in at the last moment by Brian Loftus. He made some changes too, and then after a lengthy discussion at the budget review A week ago Monday, we adopted neither. And so I guess tonight we're going to discuss it and come up with a recommendation so that we can publish it and get it approved at the March annual meeting. My budget, I guess if you would describe it, I put it together under the word operational. I made this budget with the intent is this is what the monies that I thought was needed to operate the department for the next fiscal year, taking into consideration some of the things we've discussed as a commission over the past year, which included more programming, more diverse programming, cooperation with other communities, equal opportunity to all the civic groups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And replacement of some of the equipment and cables and batteries and stuff that we needed to accomplish that. The other thing that came out during my budget hearings, I presented the question that we haven't in the past, nor did I see in the future, where we ever created a budget that took into effect or account the big ticket items that we would need to replace starting soon and in the near future, the next 3 to 5 years. And I presented the question to the oversight people that were there, Brian, all the way through Ann, that if we saved money out of this budget, could we carry it, instead of giving it back to the general fund, could we set up some kind of fund where we would accumulate funds, and then when we had $25,000, we could go purchase this and that and this that we need to replace. I also told them that the reason that we never really looked into that is because when we built this room 13, 14 years ago, when we put the plans on, we always thought that 14 years from now, we're going to renegotiate with WOW and we're going to renegotiate with Comcast, and they'll give us another franchise fee like they had in the past to re-up with their company, and we would take that block of money and put it into the cable cast and the boardroom and the things that we did, which is what we did last time. Comcast gave us $40,000, White Open West gave us $35,000. Well, in 2006, the state wiped that out, so in 2014, when our franchise fees are technically up, we're not going to get a block of money from the companies because they don't have to do that anymore. So that's why I brought this up. Well, Ted Van Oss suggested that we do a capital improvement plan, find out exactly what the state of our equipment is, and what the experts thought what the priorities should be. So we started that the Thursday after my budget hearing. I got the technician that takes care of this room from Thalner to come in and give us an estimate of what he thought. This past Monday, his boss came in. We got a little more in-depth investigating, and then within a week or 10 days, I should be getting a document from Thalner that says, this is how we think the equipment is, this is we think your priority list would be. And the directive I gave to him is, listen, it's 2012, by the time we implement all this, it might be 2015. I want to be at the state of the art at 2015, because there's probably not going to be another renovation till I'm no longer here, and it's going to be 2025, 2030 before the township is going to probably look into this again. So what the directive I gave him is, show me where we can get state of the art today so that we last a little bit going on into the future. So with that in mind, the second budget, a couple of the changes that Brian Loftus put in, I put in $25,000 for technicians. If you produce programming and you produce it adequately, it costs money. If you produce it really well, it costs more money. So, one of the questions that came up is, well, what do you pay your technicians? Well, I pay high school kids $8 an hour, the same thing I was paying them in 1997. College kids that have some experience, I pay $10 an hour. And our top technician, who has, degree from communication college and is a professional cameraman and a certified editor and stuff, I pay $15 an hour. So that's the range, between $8 and $15 an hour. And each production, if you take 3 cameras and audio and an engineer, you have 5 to 7 people on a production. So a lot of times a production calls for 5 or 7 people, and I send one camera out, and it looks like, Johnny taping it at the birthday party. Well, one camera shoot. So each production, I review, how am I going to produce it, what am I going to spend it on. Long story short, I thought to cover all the things that I anticipate coming up this year, $25,000 was probably a very accurate. In previous years, I've underestimated that and wound up taking money from other categories like education, like supplies, like equipment, and putting it into that slot. So, to be honest with you, $25,000 is probably what I felt I needed. Brian cut that to 15. He put $5,000 into if you go all the way to the bottom of the list, it says in-house web maintenance. And I put $2,000 in there. This year we didn't even use that much because instead of paying somebody, I accidentally learned a lot more than I thought I was, and I was able to do a lot of the changes myself. But that's an estimate. Well, Brian added $5,000. As you all know, it's been his goal ever since he came in to have another web page. I think that's what the survey is going to tell us. If the community wants it, the community feels we need it, and then that web page, that survey will go a long way to convincing the township board if they want to go that way or another. So, but that has not been decided. Brian also put in $10,000 for cameras, which I guess my word to qualify that is vastly premature. In talking to the technicians, Brian did come in during the discussion, and the technician was asked, well, what do you think it would cost to replace the cameras? And he kind of shrugged and said, $10,000. And that's where that figure came in. Brian was there for that. He after reviewing that the next day, the cameras, and if you look at the last page, I put that in there, the cameras that the technician was discussing that day are between $39.99 and $41.99 a piece. We need a camera control unit. We need cables, we need installation, we need new monitors. So the system is going to be $15,000 to $17,000. So the $10,000 doesn't even cover that expense. So what I feel that we should do, I would like to see the original proposal for the technicians restored at $25,000. After talking to Ann Darsnick today, she assured me that if this commission recommended a new web page and the board approved it, that we could go to the township and get a budget addendum put in at that time, which would, I imagine, would somewhere between the July and September period that we would do that. So the $5,000 extra in the web budget is not necessary at this time. And she told me basically leave the $10,000 into the capital improvement, which is listed as cameras, and the other figure there that's $14,700, we could go into that plus the $10,000 if we determine it's the cameras we're going to replace or whatever our first capital improvement is. But needless to say, we're going to have to put together a 1, 2, 3 year capital improvement plan. The money's really, we're not really hurting the township because the monies are there, and let me once again explain to everybody that the cable franchise fees from the three companies are in the neighborhood of $170,000 to $180,000 a year. All right? We are not spending all that. We are somewhere between $110,000 to $120,000 a year, and the rest of that money goes to the general fund. So the monies are coming in from cable, but we aren't using it for cable. So at some point, when we go get this capital improvement plan, the monies will still come from the same source, the cable franchise fees. We just won't return as much money back to the township on that particular fiscal year.
Thank you, Ted. Let me just clarify to some of our new people, Sharon Thomas and Sean Hayden, who is returned. We had a number of franchise fees in different percentages from WOW, and it all totals up, WOW, Comcast, and AT&T. And the pile every year comes to us, and then we are given some of the township money, and the remainder goes back. So there is an ongoing stream currently that might change in the future because there are no longer agreements, correct me if I'm wrong. There are no longer...
Where we have handshakes.
Yes, we have handshakes.
There's a statewide franchise ordinance that they operate on, and they basically say the local units of government, cities, townships, villages, cannot negotiate their own franchise fee, which was the way everybody did previous.
Just so you know that. Something you want to ask, Ted? Go ahead.
Ted, a couple questions. The surplus over and above what we've asked for from the franchise fees, is that budgeted into the operating funds or the general fund?
Yeah, the 100, whatever we don't spend from the cable franchise fees goes to the general fund.
And is it earmarked for anything special, or can we ask for it back if we have other expenses?
We can ask for it back. Like I said, when talking about the webpage with Ann today, if we need, well, I got it, like the gentleman that you talked to at MTA gave me a quote to start changing the webpage, which was $6,500. All right, if we don't have enough, we can ask the general fund to make a budgetary amendment to our budget, and that's where we'd wind up getting the funds.
Would that take money out of another designated fund?
You know what? I have a hard time keeping track of our budget. I don't know where it would come from. It would come from whatever the pool general fund covers. It would come from that pool.
And one other question. You said that you got a technical person coming in a week or so?
No, this past Monday, a gentleman by the name of Tim Boggs, who works for Thalner in Ann Arbor, he lives in Trenton, and he was part of the crew that put this together, so he's familiar with everything here from its inception. He came out one day, and we went through the control room, and we went through here. Now, I'm not getting specific. In the control room, we have 3 or 4 different systems that are integrated to make everything work. All right, and this system is 12 or 13 years old, and the other system's 14 years old, and another one is 9 years old. And so he reviewed all the systems and how we're doing it, how we're sending, to whom we're sending it out, and he's coming up with, as he told me, he's not going to, like you have one camera there, he's going to give me a couple options on camera systems. Sony, Panasonic. There's one system that utilizes an overhead camera projection. There's another system that uses an Elmo projector to show things off. He suggested some upgrades so that people can bring their, this was set up for laptops, and not being a geek, whatever the video signal out of a laptop is now obsolete, and they're going to an HDMI, so we don't have that capability. And with people using iPads and iBooks and all kinds of stuff, we have to upgrade our capability so people can still do what they do with the new technology. technology, so.
Well, this guy has already come in and is he doing some paperwork? that-
I should have a report. He was in Monday, he said a week, but, a week usually turns into 10 days or 12 days, so by the end of next week, I expect to have heard from him, and he said he'll email it to me, and I'll email it out.
And do you anticipate that that's going to be a major increase in what our budget now stands at?
Well, just the example I showed you, yeah, because these are capital improvements. Like I said, the budget I presented was an operating budget for the department, using the existing things that we have, upgrading. I mean, there's always battery costs and cable costs and connectors, and I mean, there's every time you go out there, you have to replace something. That the budget that we really need to put effort into and look at, we'll do this year, this next year, this the following year, is the capital improvement budget. And there are 3 or 4 multiple big ticket items that we're going to have to look into.
But as of now, the equipment we have is going to make it, say, through another year?
I don't know. We suspect, if you would ask the experts and you're using a computer system that's been refurbished and the refurbishing is 8 years old, I think most technicians would tell you you're living on borrowed time. Even the computer, I mean, the screens that you're looking at, we paid extra for when we put them in this room because they were state-of-the-art, and remember the big bulky monitors, and we paid extra to have thin screens put in. Well, these are obsolete. They don't have the high definition that new screens have, and he was telling me there are screens that there probably won't be as square. They'll be more rectangular and lower, and these things that we paid extra for are they have been called anchors. So put a rope on them, use them as a boat anchor. So.
Anybody else?
Yes. Just a couple of things. I'm going to come at this from probably a very, very different perspective. Again, just to clarify, whether this commission existed or not, whether we had cable television, broadcast anything, whether we had a website or not, we'd still receive the franchise fees. And those monies belong to the board. They belong to the township. So to consider the Myers, I think, and I've said this multiple times before, I think is misrepresenting and where the monies belong. Secondly, if any of you have looked at the 5-year budget projections for the township overall, if we look in a broader picture and not just this commission, and I agree with Ted, I mean, what we need to do is look at what is we need to have a capital expense plan if we want to continue this service. But the fund balance, as it stands at this point, we would have cannibalized it, and with what is actually published and on the website, or has been published. It's not a matter of whether anybody's chosen to put it on the website, it's just what's been published out there. We'll be going into deficit in the 4th year, and actually with some adjustments, we'll be going into deficit in the 3rd year, and I think, Pam, you're aware of that, correct? That actually will be in deficit at the end of 3 years. And
But that's a projection.
well, it's a projection, but if you look at the projections on the differentials between revenue and expenditures, there's nothing to suggest that there's any plan that would curb that. This is fairly consistent.
Well, there's nothing to suggest that the state of Michigan was going to have a profit this year with all of the bad news. Projections
Okay.
they're
Okay, Kathy, these are the projections from the township.
currently.
Okay, yeah, currently. But I think you have to plan with that in mind and to curb, and at a certain point, I think we have to try to be as frugal as we can be, given these projections.
It's an over $5 million budget.
And I would, and at the end of 4 years, we're projected to be at over $1 million, generating more than $1 million deficit every year.
Since I was not involved in the projection.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Of course, you can.
Okay, because I'm not here to debate. I'm here to give my opinion on this. And that is that I think we need to be very frugal. I think we need to look at these things very, very carefully. I think each one of the commissions and each one of the funding centers is at a certain point going to have to take the bull by the horns and look at these things very, very carefully. Now, I would like to see these services continue to be provided. So then the question becomes, how do we do this while potentially reducing our costs? And I came across something, I don't know whether it's worthwhile or not.
Just please keep on the agenda of the commission, not a bigger...
But this enters into it, I think. And that is that we've talked in the past about the potential for collaboration and the potential for collaboration between maybe ourselves and the schools. And I just found this about a week ago, that the state of Michigan has set up a fund of about $2.5 million to fund exactly this, collaborative opportunities between or between government entities. And I have a copy of it here, unfortunately, because I found it late, and they're pushing this out in $100,000 to $300,000 packets, but this is exactly what the intent is, I think, to offset those costs that are becoming overwhelming, so that if we could put something together between the schools and the township for collaboration, we may be able to offset this, actually get more monies in the short term to offset those capital expenses that are required and still reduce the impact on the budget. I have the information here.
Could you give us the URL?
I can give you all of that. I have copies of all this.
Great.
The really unfortunate thing is the proposals, it's like a grant proposal, they're due by March 31st.
Of course.
Now, I spoke just before I came into this meeting, and I've never spoken to her before, Terry Hunter, and Terry Hunter will not speak, of course, and cannot speak on behalf of her board, but she did say, and Ms. Hunter, I hope I'm not misrepresenting you, that she believed that they would certainly be open to collaboration and open to discussion about this, because they're as interested in saving money as and in as great a need of saving money and recognizing economies as we are. So I will pass that through. I think she mentioned Brian as a point person. It doesn't matter, and I'm not going to be here, but I'd heartily endorse this commission moving on that. And maybe that could be an excellent source of funding and for the entire commission and for this capital expenditure program.
That was excellent, fine. Excellent. And no one wants more collaboration between the schools and this commission. I mean, Ted has been vigilant in helping and diligent in going over to the schools and helping with their issues lately with their cameras and things. Have you not, Ted? Yeah. But if you are done.
This sounds like something that we could look at this year, but I don't think it in any way would affect
this issue.
This fiscal budget, which pretty well has to be in 10 days.
Yeah, and the issue is the budget's over $5 million. And have you, and did everybody have a chance to review the meeting? I sent you the link so that you could see in the archives about the budget meeting on March 5th, because there was a lengthy discussion about our commission. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend. I had another budget meeting, which I made people aware of. Obviously, they must have forgotten. But anyways, my point in this whole thing is, it seemed like you asked for $25,000 based upon history, and a new request came up asking for documentation on hourly work and basically the flow of your projects. And you don't have time to do that. And I would propose that we do a three-year rolling projected cost by month. But that would take time, and that would be next year, and would be available for next year. So if there was an adjustment to the budget, you'd know where we would have the effect. Because, you don't want to, as I think Mr. Van Oss said, you don't want to end up in September with no money. And we really don't have a pattern. We don't have anything established. So I would just recommend that we, based upon your inherent knowledge of your department, approve for consideration to the trustees the $25,000, and then it would be up to the trustees and their wisdom to decide based upon their wisdom if they want to approve it, because that's where the buck stops, with the trustees. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in that meeting, did you not say that you never, in all the years, spent less than $20,000 on technology?
I always budgeted around 20,000, but Ann Darsnick and I, after many years of discussion, and I would say, well, you know, I'm going to have to use some more money, and she said, well, just take it out of that line and take it out of that line. So her concern was that we usually spend around between 108, 110,000 in that neighborhood, and she said, you got 110,000, run your department. That was, and you know, if it went into stamps and notebooks or technicians, she didn't care as long as it was I spent 110,000, you know, for production, you know.
But that 110,000 would not include the capital expenditure.
No. See, the capital expenditure, which is needed, but it's premature even throwing any money at it yet because we don't know.
You don't want to budget for it.
You know, it says cameras. Well, after we are done reviewing everything we have, it may not be the camera unit. Maybe we can get another year out of the camera unit, but our switcher and graphics machine, which is called a Globalcaster, which we bought in 1998 as a beta. It was a beta equipment at the time, so we've had problems with it in the beginning of its use. Lately, it's been pretty good, but that may be the first unit, and we're looking at to replace that with a TriCaster unit like the school bought, and that's going to be in the $10,000. So maybe our first expense won't be the $17,000 camera system; it'll be a $10,000 TriCaster. The other thing is, and you're well aware of it, is that we had problems with our playback, which is a electronics unit. And to be totally honest with you, I took our electronics unit to Lansing, Holt, where they build them and sell them, and I said, listen, I got to run the channel. So they gave me a loaner, right? And they, with the stipulation, when they fix mine, they'll call me, and I'll bring the loaner back. They haven't called me yet. So for 2 years, I've been using a loaner.
Don't tell anybody.
And it's working, and mine's not fixed, but it's the identical unit. So, I mean, that may be the first unit that we're going to have to, because they weren't sure that loaner worked, but it's working. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing is that, you know, we've been operating on the cheap, mindful of the budget projections and the budget deficits. Well, we might have to buy another unit, and that's going to a $10,000 to $15,000 expenditure. So we're looking at 3 or 4 different $10,000 to $15,000 expenditures, and based on this report I get back, it'll give us options on each one of those, and what their expert opinion is on where we should go first. The other thing is on March 31st, they're going to have demonstrations at their office on all these units, and I plan on being there to see all the latest things, you know, the technology, you know, that they're suggesting for us on March 31st. So to throw money at the capital expense end right now is premature.
If I could ask one more. Are there multiple vendors? There must be multiple vendors, I would imagine, within the metropolitan Detroit area that respond to these things.
Right, but right now. I called the people that I trust, the people that know this stuff inside and out. Not only did they install it, they have been maintaining it, and I've been taking it to their shop, and they've been making emergency calls here. At 5 o'clock today, I needed somebody. Their technicians would be here in a couple hours to work on it. So right now, this is initial. I mean, it's not going out for bids. This is what we think based on all the years we've worked on this is where we think you are. This is how we would do it. And that's just the first step. And by no means is it the final step or a commitment in any way, but I feel very comfortable with Zollner based on a 12 or 13-year relationship of them working with this room. I mean, they know every wire in the back of this thing, and they can tell you every wire in the back of the 65 pieces of equipment we have in the control room. So,
and if I could, I understand that, but I never think. I mean, we live in a competitive environment, and we're trying to get the best bang for the buck. And by no means am I saying, you know, let's start putting out bids and turning it on a penny. I don't. frankly believe in that. But I never think it hurts to invite competition either, and maybe a fresh perspective on things. And I think that only keeps, I think that keeps all vendors and all suppliers on their toes. I mean, I deal with it on a daily basis, and
But that would be
I think
after we
that- I
find
think
out
that
what we
helps.
need. Right now, we're getting what we need.
I understand. I just,
Sure.
I just think it's something that we need to adopt. I think you have a better assurance of getting, better value for the taxpayer dollar just by inviting some level of competition. Again,
I agree.
not without giving credit and value, placing value on a longstanding vendor relationship.
I agree, and I also will say one thing from my years of business. A lot of times, you get lowballed to change. And I'm not saying that's going to happen or anything, but sometimes you get lowballed, and then 4 years later, you go, oh, my heavens.
Well, we're not even at that
Yeah,
step.
we are so far from that.
We're removed at this point. I mean,
Right.
what Ted's indicating is just a preliminary, here's an initial discussion to look at a capital expenditure plan, which is a great idea, and you should definitely move forward with it. What Craig's indicating is, at that point, when we get to that point,
Oh,
it
that-
moves us to bring in another outside competitor to make sure we are getting the added value.
Absolutely.
So I think that's all it is just let's be open and mindful of that. And I agree with
Absolutely.
both directions.
Right.
But I think, to the point here, the recommendation, as I understand it, is we're looking to say restore it back to 25,000.
Yeah, I would like to
15?
present the original operating budget with the caveat that if we wanted to leave the $10,000 capital for cameras, where it says cameras there, we'd leave it in there. I've already talked to Ann about that, and she said no problem. And trust me, we're not going to spend a dime of that until it's been researched, verified, and we know that at that moment, that's the best move to make. So, here's the reason that Dale's been involved in all this too, and one of his most important questions has been, if we go down, if it shuts off tonight, how long before we're back up? And their best estimate is 30 to 45 days. Now, you just project in the next 30 to 45 days, we're going to have the annual meeting, we're going to have an Island Fest, has important meetings coming up, RAC. I mean, we do at least 9 meetings a month. And some, like this month will be a little more because we had the budget hearings. So, there's a lot of things that happen in 30 and 45 days on the island. And that does not just include broadcasting, that also includes playback. And so I think we're to the point, we're about 14 years out from the planning stages of where this room began to now. And if we spend 3 years, I mean, it surprises me, but we're looking at 2015, and I'm sure there won't be, a lot of movement for the next 10, 15 years with all the other issues coming up. So we're at a point where as people go on, I sometimes think in 2070, what snotty brat's going to be doing my job over here, but, they're going to have amazing new equipment and technologies, and I'll be jealous wherever I am that I didn't have it. But I think we need to look for the next 15 or a couple decades, and we can do it within the next 3 years.
Ted, one more question for you. So if I understood your proposal correctly, the estimated budget that you have operating is 110, and now you're indicating to keep an additional 10,000 in there to bring it up to 120?
It would be 120.
Okay.
The other shift would be the 5 from the web maintenance would be 5 of it that went back into the budget.
Back up
And
to-
with the assurance, and I'm not saying we're not going to get a webpage, if the survey convinces the board that they want a new webpage, then that's going to happen. And at that time, Ann told me that the commission could, recommend it, and that we would go to the general fund, and that's where it would be funded. Because I'm kind of parochial here. I don't think this department should be funding the whole webpage by itself because it's used by police and real estate and RAC. And I think one of the items on this budget is administrative costs. We have we give the township money in the general fund from the cable funds, and then after we do that, they charge us another 2% administrative cost on what we are spending. So
I like that chargeback fee.
I like that. I've argued that a couple times.
Unsuccessful.
You don't get anywhere with Ann.
I understand that.
But the bottom line is, I would like to see, a shared expense from everybody that uses that webpage, because the fire department uses it for safety reasons, and the police department, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this idea may not go over at all, but
Be popular.
I'm surely going to suggest it.
Yeah, that's great. So you really want 125?
No, 120 would be the total, I
You want
think.
to take the 5 from the web and put that up to the technicians plus another 5 then?
Well, basically, it's the first page, it's restoring the first page as I presented it, and then putting the 10,000 that Brian...
Okay.
I mean, we could change that to capital improvement instead of cameras, and not use it at all next year. I mean, that's just a fund we wouldn't touch for anything but capital improvement if we decided to go that way.
But just know that if these cameras did fail, God forbid, that whether it's in a budget or not, money would be spent because,
If I could, which cameras are we talking about here?
These big ones.
Okay,
And this one here.
if I might, what is the, and I understand money would have to be spent, what's the level of redundancy? I mean, the schools have like capabilities, do they not?
The schools have a Sony system of one-chip cameras, which are very, they don't look good at all compared to the next channel. If people go from channel 10, or is it channel 22 to the next channel, they can tell the difference. These, on the last page is a model, that one of them that was suggested. Oh, the other thing is that all this present-day equipment, which probably wouldn't have great value, but we could probably, it's all in the resells all their old equipment on eBay and get something out of it. And we also talked about using these cameras, locking them down so they don't turn anywhere, and using them for maybe security in the parking lot, security over the gas field over here, or security, and somehow there is enough technology that you, with some converters and stuff, you could run them through a computer, and a lot of the areas with these 3 cameras, maybe Centennial Farm, could be monitored by the police dispatch girl on our computer. So there is a possibility of taking what we do have and using it otherwhere for benefit. So,
repurposing them.
yeah.
I just wanted to, the reason I asked that, and if we don't have an agreement, maybe the township should. And I'm sure that, you'd probably say it doesn't take a formal agreement, but I'm trying to, I guess, point out is that if we did have something catastrophic that occurred, the like capabilities do exist over at the schools, and I think we could fairly well rely on them, at least in the short term, for a 30-day period, for a 60-day period, whatever it took, to make those available to us. Now, if we don't have that in effect, or if you feel that there would be some level of resistance, maybe we ought to try to arrive at that so that there's a value for value exchange.
Well, the schools have always, if you go back historically, when I first came here, we were using Meridian School, and we were using East River School for our meetings. And Pam's, how many years were we at East River, and how many years do we go to Meridian? So the schools have always been cooperative.
So we could rely on them as they could rely on us should something happen there to fill in the short term. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
I think that's fair.
yeah, you're 100% right, and I'm not a one-trick pony. I mean, if these cameras went down, it would take 30 to 45 days to replace them. That's a selling point. I'd figure a way to get the meeting off. I mean, I could run cables and
Right.
cameras
So
and
we're
extra
looking-
technicians,
yeah.
so I might need the whole 25,000 for technicians.
There you
So.
go. So do we have a motion on the floor to support?
Does
Ted's-
Sharon have a?
I just had
Sorry.
one other, I just wanted to clarify something, just to make sure I understand. So, when this survey goes out and we get the results and we kind of find out what people want to see on the website and on the channel, the TV channels, what if we don't have then the money to make those changes? I mean, I don't know what their changes might be.
Well,
To be sure.
we'll adopt, I mean, there are ways, different ways to skin a cat. When I first got here, I didn't have enough equipment to do much, but all of a sudden Comcast was lending me equipment, and different communities were lending me equipment that I had previously worked in, and I had a friend that had his own equipment, and we got a lot of things done because I knew people, and we borrowed and bartered, so we'll get things done, and we'll work toward whatever the spirit of the survey is. It's just, I mean, we may not be able, if we get the survey done July 1st, we may not be able to do it July 2nd, but we'll work toward that. And that's one of the reasons I increased what I thought was a more realistic figure for technicians, because I really do plan on doing more cooperative things with Wyandotte and Riverview and doing some projects with them that are maybe not 100% Grosse Ile, but of interest to Grosse Ile and Grosse Ile. Like right now, the lady that runs Riverview, she's working basically behind the scenes with Paul Smoke and the bridge company. She wants, and I'm helping her and doing what I can, but we're putting together a cooperative documentary on the Free Bridge, the toll bridge, and
Historical Society too, isn't it?
and the Historic Society's involved with it. And I'm not sure if we're going to get it done in June or September, but, we've been meeting with Paul Smoke and meeting with Greg, and it's not running forward, but it's moving forward. And those are the types of projects that I'd like to see. And, I am looking for, programs. I talked to a representative Monday night, and I guess he's going to start sending out, his program more regular. And so we're going to be working in that direction, because that's been the spirit of the commission. So that's why I put that extra money in.
Then you like 120,000 recommended.
Yeah, but what I would do is where that one line that says cameras, I just put capital improvements, and that could be inclusive. And there's no, if we don't use it, it'll go back, to March 31st, 2013, it'll go back to the general fund.
If it's not spent,
Yeah.
it doesn't have anywhere to go. And do we have a motion on the floor?
Well, I'll put a motion forward for
Okay.
it, to amend to accept Ted's proposal with the current state proposal with the inclusion of 10,000 for a total funding of 120,000.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
And second. And a vote. All
Paul.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose simply on the basis, I think the capital program is necessary, but I have a hard time supporting a better than 10% budget increase in a year when we're losing money. I understand it has to be done. That's all.
Duly noted. Thank you. All righty.
I have a question for Ted. Ted, you make the revisions and get them to...
Yeah, Ann needs them right away, and Sharon needed them a week ago, so we have a managers meeting first thing in the morning, and I'll have to take care of it.
Thank you, Ted. Pam, would you like to go? Your liaison report?
I have several things, so I will go down through my list. First of all, I heard from our supervisor, Brian Loftus, that he would like the commission to vote on the chair for this upcoming year.
Okay.
Because at the annual meeting, which is coming up really soon, on March the 26th, the township board usually just endorses what the commission recommends, or the committee recommends, for a chair. So I would place a nomination, our current chair, Kathy Walker.
Thank you.
And I have to get this to Brian as soon as possible, because he wants it to bring up at the annual meeting on the 26th, which is going to be the annual meeting and a regular township board meeting.
Thank you. I accept your generous proposal. And it would only be limited to the people on the commission for next year, then, who would be voting. Is that correct?
Well, we would vote here.
Right, but the people that are going to be next year on the commission. Okay. And is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I would oppose.
Okay. Thank you. It has passed.
A couple of other things has to do with, one is a clipping I found in the Michigan Township Association, their magazine. And this is a township, Bryan Township, which is in Kent County. And this was sent in by the clerk. To better serve our business community, the Bryan Center Chamber of Commerce moved its offices to the township office. And they hosted 2 big events in our parks and so forth. And at our last township board meeting, it was brought up during the public comment, why is it that on our website certain businesses are listed and certain businesses are not? And as I recall, a couple years ago, we had this discussion. If we run a business listing on our website, are we leaving off some other businesses? And rather than getting into might be a problem that we mention one business and ignore another, we just decided that we would pull all businesses off. Well, it was brought up, we were reminded that some of the businesses, like the Writing Academy and Sharky's is listed, and Brian's comment was that, well, they are run out of a facility that is township owned. So that was the reason why they are listed. But I thought maybe we can't discuss it now, but I'd like to see on the agenda for the April meeting, do we want to revisit our policy on businesses listed on the website? And when I saw this, that the Chamber of Commerce moved into the Township Hall, I thought, well, some townships out there are embracing their businesses. And I did distribute a clipping out of the Michigan Township News, their newsletter or magazine, using the township website as an economic development tool. So there's a promotion, getting the word out that this is a place that people might want to do business. And I thought maybe just have an open discussion, maybe bring some of the businesses in, and open it up again for discussion. Would we be doing the community a favor by publishing businesses that are up and down Macomb Street? We have made a decision before to pull it off, so I'm thinking, well, this is the new year, maybe we should revisit it.
I'll add that to the agenda.
May I? It's still not lawful. And if the Chamber of Commerce moved into the township offices, it's possible that there was a value for value exchange there between the township and renting space to the Chamber of Commerce, and then the Chamber of Commerce, it's lawful and legal for them to advertise individual businesses. I mean, they're that's what they're set up to do. But it's still not lawful for the township to do it. And I don't think the laws have changed. And again, I've got the response here from Catherine Mulhaupt from the Michigan Townships Association that she provided to us a year and a half, 2 years ago on this, as far as
Did she say
what
it
the
was
limitations were.
restricted?
Yes. Well, I mean, basically, she said, look, which is, I think, evident here, you either advertise all businesses, and if you advertise all businesses, that means once you set a policy to advertise all businesses, you have no choice, you have no right to be discretionary. It's something that you are giving away. So if somebody at the liquor store wants to advertise on the website alongside the any other type of business, or you have to advertise them all. I think it calls into question: is this only for is it only for Grosse Ile located businesses? What is it for someone that lives on Grosse Ile, that owns a business off of Grosse Ile but pays taxes on Grosse Ile? I mean, it kind of opens up, I think, a can of worms
I think that's why
I
we
would say,
decided
please
not to do it.
proceed with great caution in the coming year. I think I had provided this commission several years ago, the publications out of the state and out of the Townships Association on lawful expenditures. Please proceed very carefully.
We also can contact Mr. Look and get another, get an opinion from
Mr. Look's not our attorney anymore, huh?
Excuse me, who is this?
Thomas Sorty.
Excuse me, Mr. Sorty. Excuse me, Mr. Look now. Mr. Sorty, and we can get, his interpretation
Yeah.
moving forward, which would be
I was
great.
going to ask, can I get a copy of that? I'll leave you with it. Great, thank you. That's perfect.
And I'll email this response again, and the information that I have, the response that I got from Catherine will help, and so that everybody, all of you have them.
Great, thank you, Craig.
Okay. Anything else, Pam?
Yeah. I suggested at the last commission meeting that we maybe have a program involving our supervisor. And Brian seemed to be agreeable to a program called Listening In with Loftus. It wouldn't be political, it would be just giving people an update of what's happening from his perspective as township supervisor. And I know that Ted chatted with Brian after that meeting, and he seemed to be agreeable. So I didn't know whether this has moved forward or not. Hasn't moved forward. Okay. But I got to thinking that back in 1996, I did a show out of Flat Rock when the studio was there, and we had public access way back in the old days. And we call it the Island Eye, and I worked with Jim Evangelista and Ann Aronson, and we were a team. We moderated the program. We called it the Island Eye, and every month we had a different show, and we featured the three I's: information, interviews, and issues. That died in 1996. It was off island, and we were getting some of our, we wanted to publicize in the Eel Camera, and the current Cable Commission said they didn't want to spend money off island because we were operating out of the Flat Rock studio. So we didn't get any publicity, and nobody knew we were on, and we thought, well, who's watching this? So we faded. But I got to thinking, maybe it's time to revise the Island Eye and do a little feature picking out interesting aspects of Island, what's going on here. And I just thought I'd throw that out as an idea. And as I was thinking about this, I thought, well, I don't want to take it on my own if you're agreeable to starting a little feature about Grosse Ile called the Island Eye, that I'd like to work with a couple other, Sharon or Sean or Kathy or Craig, and have a little committee to decide, well, what do the people out there want to see? Because I know your husband, Tim, said he didn't want anything that has to do with outsiders.
It's not Grosse Ile.
Something that has to do with our community right here, what's going on and who's doing what. So, just for thought,
Yeah,
why
great.
don't you put that in your
I will, definitely.
tickle file?
It's a great idea. The more Grosse Ile, the better. That's what this is for. Great.
And I probably wondering why I'm in a sweatshirt that says Keep Michigan Beautiful. Well, we met today, our board of directors. We met in Wixom, beautiful community, and we're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary. We started off as an anti-litter group named by then Governor Swainson to keep Michigan clean, and it's evolved into historic preservation and planting and beautification and litter control and cleanup, and now we're with Keep America Beautiful. We've got schools that we're working in. And on May 18th in Holland, Michigan, we're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary.
Congratulations, it's wonderful.
That's something.
But the reason why I brought it up at this meeting is that Grosse Ile has had 3 past presidents of Keep Michigan Beautiful. Ann Zaborowski, who's still going strong. She's on the Planning Commission. She's with our Alliance for the Arts. She's an active, and I think she's in her 90s.
Wow.
Yeah.
God
She
bless
was president of Keep Michigan Beautiful. Art Kester, who's
Oh.
chair of the Island Beautification Committee, was a past president. And Jack Furchie was a past president. And I'm secretary. So we've got a connection here with Grosse Ile. And I'd like to see our Communications Commission do something to celebrate our very strong involvement with Keep Michigan Beautiful. And with arts, they're doing an all-island cleanup. It's going to be March 31st. And I think it'd be nice to feature that Art and Ann are still contributing.
We can get something going, can't we, Ted? Do something on that, and then we
Mine's
can...
working right now, you can't tell, but it is.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful anniversary, and it should be promoted on GITV, and perhaps we'll get something in the O Camera if they're so inclined to publish. I mean, get the presidents together with their secretary, that would be great. More the better.
And I think I've gone on long enough, and so
Okay.
I will
Thank you, Pam.
bow out.
Ted, are you prepared?
Oh, I'm always prepared. First of all, it was mentioned earlier that we've been working with the schools. We've got a new camera installed. They had some bad cabling. We got that fixed. The school's production starting at the end of this month should be 100 times better than it was. And we have found the parts, and the replay unit is working again. It's not state-of-the-art, but it's working again. So we're working with the school. I brought a technician in. We checked the lighting. We made some modification to camera brightness and modified their computer. And so their broadcast should be 100% better and repeated, starting with the March one. So hopefully that's all settled. The second thing is, the first item you brought up, Pam, is actually 2 different issues. There's advertising on the webpage, and there's the advertising on the community bulletin board. And just in brief, there is no advertising on the webpage now. There's a listing of business, and any business that calls in gets listed. If it's a Grosse Ile business, it gets listed. No questions. All they have to do is send me their address, and they're usually up within 5 minutes of me getting the email. On the web page, we do have a few businesses: Luton's, Sharky's, the Tennis Center. I know I'm missing one. That have been put up only because they are, if they do well, the nature or whatever lease or agreement they have with the township benefits. So when Luton's is in there at the Centennial Farm and they do well and they stay there, then Centennial Farm, it becomes a money-making issue, and the township gets paid. There are times when these businesses are not doing well where the township winds up on the short end and doesn't get their money. Sharky's and the township are, that's our building. Their rent is based on their business, and so the better they do, the better the township does. Oh, the other one is a pilot house. How they got up there is strictly the supervisors requested it. When the Sharky's agreement was made, which I don't know the agreement, I was asked, we're in business with Sharky's, put theirs up. When the tennis center was negotiated, that's the way that happened. And, Brian asked me to put up the township. So the past 3 supervisors asked for that, and that's why they're up there. No other reason. but there's no other advertising. I mean, we're not going to advertise most of the businesses on Macomb. You know, I mean, I don't know the whole ethics of the whole situation, and that may be something you guys want to visit, but that's why they're up there, and that's the only advertising, and they don't pay anything for up there. The only reason they're up there is they're in business with the township. So that's the nature, but those are 2 items. Go ahead.
What about the dance studio that's in Hangar 2?
We don't do any advertising for them.
What about West Shore? And
West Shore, you know, I kept thinking about it, and West Shore was up there because a previous trustee asked me to put up the country club, and then a week later I got, well, what about West Shore? So I guess it was in order to put the country club up there, they put West Shore up there. If you've watched the channel within the last 10 days, I don't know how, but both of those got deleted and nobody has said anything. So that's no longer an issue. Those 2 are not up on the community bulletin board.
I think it just reinforces the need for a policy that's well-founded in law, and to distance ourselves from exposure, and to make sure that it's equitable to all of our stakeholders.
Well, I guess you're right. I agree. You know what? It'd make my life a lot easier. But basically, the powers that be decided that if A was making money for the township, then we could help A out. So I mean, that's the.
Did you say that Sharkey's payments to the township are contingent or tied to their revenue stream?
I have no privy to the contract. I am under the impression that when they do well, the township gets paid. If they don't get well, the township doesn't make as much money.
Yeah. Well,
that is the impression I'm in, and I may be 100% wrong. But that's the impression I'm on.
Yeah, maybe we should a lot of questions, probably a number of things that actually aren't for this commission maybe to address. I mean, for the board to address.
Pam always asked me in February. Basically, the only shoot that we went out and did was the Musical, and the reason we haven't shown them is Musical has asked me not to show any of the concerts that we're taping until the summer, and she told me why, but I'm not sure. But so as soon as what's her name, Anne
Marie.
Anne Marie gives me permission to show them, we'll start showing all the Musical concerts that we've been.
She was concerned that if people saw it on cable, then they wouldn't come to the program itself live.
Well, you have one more in April, and we'll tape that, and then after that, we'll start showing them. We've taped the cello performance and the violin performance and the Dr. Parker's performance at the Presbyterian Church. Yeah, I'm going to. And so we've been working on that. We've had a couple extra meetings to do this month. And then I had one question for Pam. You brought up Women's Month, and I know you're very involved in that, and we've done some of your events. And I just wondered if, I think it's March 25th, you're having Senator Stabenow give a presentation, and I just wondered if you wanted that covered, or...
Yeah, I did a little research at the Historical Society, and this is the first time a U.S. Senator has visited Grosse Ile in their recollection. So they don't have any record that other than Debbie Stabenow, and she's coming not to give a political speech, but to speak on the topic of women's education, women's empowerment. And do you want me to, I've got contact with her aide in Lansing, and can I say
if she's willing and you guys think it's okay, because I think my thought on Monday night was this would be something to show the people, but also document and give to the Historic Society so they have a copy of it based on the historic purpose. As far as your Island Eye show, I perfectly willing if my suggestion would be is that you guys have a meeting once every other month, and the alternating months you do a show. So that sounds good. That would be it would give you some fun and games, and you guys could produce what you want to do, and we'll capture it. And there was one other show you mentioned, and
Well, Brian Loftus would...
I talked to him, and when he said when he I guess he's just retired, when he's easing into retirement, and he's got his schedule down, and he wants to do it, we're more than happy to do it. So that's it.
May I ask you, Ted, when we did the Chopped one, which was a cooperative, is that going to be shown? Have I missed it?
It's been shown 2 weekends. It's going to be shown again.
Would you let me know? I'd like to watch it. It was a great thing.
We also, we're going to turn that into the Philo Awards. We haven't turned anything in. The last time, 2004, we turned a few programs in, and we got a couple awards, and we're going to see if that one qualifies. And we're doing it on the basis that it is a cooperative.
It was terrific. I enjoyed attending.
Right.
There was a Riverview show in November. 6 chefs from the area competed, like Chopped, like the show on the Food Network. Yeah, it was really enjoyable, and Ted was there working away with Riverview in a cooperative, and you saw them working in the kitchen, and they came out and we tried the food, and it was really great. It was just a terrific
Riverview
time.
provided 3 or 4 technicians,
Yeah.
and I provided 3 technicians, and we married the equipment, and I let them edit it. We had 3, 4, 5 hours worth of tape to edit, so I let them.
We had over 100 people there, paying people, which is good. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ted.
All right.
Okay, the chair's report. First off, I'd like to thank Pam. She contacted Linda Solano, who is the one of the principals, and she graciously sent us her report in lieu of attending our meetings. She's going to be sending a monthly report, and I'd like to read it to you. It's not that long, but I thought it's very important to know what's going on in the school. Grosse Ile Township Schools Communication Commission Report, March 2012. This is a new edition of the bridge located on the school district website. There are excellent informative articles in that publication that give great information about our schools. At Park Lane and Meridian, March is Reading Month. We have had community members, school board members, grandparents, and other family members in our school to read books to classes. Jonathan Rand, the author of the American and Michigan Children's Series, came to Meridian at the end of February. Yvonne Healy, an Irish storyteller, did an assembly at both Park Lane and Meridian. Superintendent Ice read the Lorax to all the Meridian students on March 1st to kick off Reading Month. If anyone would like to volunteer as a reader at either school, please call or email the school and we will set you up with a time. Thank you to the community for the terrific support of the elementary carnival on March 10th. It truly was a community event. We had donations from local businesses, volunteers of all ages, and great attendance. The 8th grade students at middle school will be going to Washington, D.C. the week of March 19th. At the high school, there's a new group called STAND. STAND means Students Taking a New Direction. Is an adult-led, student-driven group that began at the high school this year. Their vision is to have an ongoing student-led support system that promotes tolerance, encourages positive connections, and is responsive to the educational and social needs of all. In order to create an intentionally safe and respectful culture of learning and growth for all. Lastly, on April 2nd to 4th, our entire school district will be undergoing a quality assurance review by a group of educators from Advanced Ed. The people reviewing our district are from the state of Michigan, Florida, and Wisconsin. We are proud to share our school district with this group and look forward to the feedback they will provide to us. And that is from Linda Solano. So, thank you, Pam. Yes.
You mentioned that STAND group.
Yes.
If you watch the meetings the next couple of weeks, and maybe probably the next month, two students from STAND, Matt Cloutier and Colin Kearney, who have both been working with me throughout their high school years, not as much as they like to, but they've both been working with me, put together, shot, and edited a remarkably moving PSA for the STAND group on self-esteem among teenage kids, and I've been playing it the last 2 weeks before and after every meeting. It's about 3.5 minutes long, and it's very well shot, edited, thought out. I guess the group himself wrote it. Those two gentlemen don't take credit for the writing. But if you get a chance before or after any meeting, I've been playing this PSA, and I'm a big old ugly guy, but I almost had me in tears the first couple times I saw it. I think they did such an outstanding job. Matt Cloutier is going to be I guess he's going to be the valedictorian of the class, the school this year, and Colin Kearney has done a wonderful job, for me over the years. But I just thought those two gentlemen at the high school did a remarkable job, and I really hope everybody gets to see it.
Could you submit that for one of those awards?
Yeah, well, I've been asking them. They're kind of leery because they don't want to take credit because they shot it and edited it. But I mean, I guess there's a whole group stand put it together, and they are very proud of it. They're kind of leery about taking credit for it. I'm trying to talk them into giving me permission to turn it in for them. But I really would. But I trust me, if you see it, and it was our students at the high school that did it, and it's remarkably moving, and especially in a day where bullying and kids' self-esteem and childhood suicides and stuff are prevalent. I really wish, and if you get a chance, get to the high school and congratulate those kids because they did a remarkable job.
Yeah, if I could, I'd like to echo that. It's a great piece.
I will make a point of
black
seeing
and white and well worth watching. I mean, it's really, really terrific. I felt the same way about it that Ted did. It was a wonderful piece, very well done.
Ted, do you suppose these boys could be convinced that, like the Oscars, the stars get credit and the writers get credit, but the producers also get credit?
I think you'll find that these are two remarkably I mean, I can't describe these kids. And you know how many kids over the years back that I've worked with, and these are two of the more outstanding. I mean, they're humble as hell. There's not a egotistical bone in either of their body. And literally, I told them, I said, I'd like to turn this in. And no, I don't know if we should, So I'm still working on it. Matt's done a lot of things for me. He's done the Then and Now pieces that we put on it. He's done the Christmas PSAs that ran to open up the station. And we're almost there, but do you remember back when we were young and at 12 o'clock midnight the Star Spangled Banner played and the Jets were soaring? He's trying to put that together, and so when he's done, every night at 12 o'clock we're going to kind of have like a semi-station close-off, but it'll be a patriotic 2 minutes and 46 seconds with the Star Spangled Banner, and he's working on that right now. So these are outstanding. If you ever meet these two kids anywhere, shake their hand. They're just outstanding kids.
Well, that's terrific. I will make a point of looking for it.
And I had just...
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Is this, I haven't seen it yet, is the PSA age appropriate like for the elementary school kids?
Oh, yeah, any kid, it's age appropriate from 0 to 95. I mean,
'Cause I'm
I
wondering-
guess 96-year-olds can watch it if they want to, but
Because I'm wondering if that could be something that maybe the schools, the schools can play things over there. They have TVs in the room, the classrooms.
contact stand at the high school. I mean, I'm not familiar with the
Yeah.
background of the group, and I just heard about it. They basically used, he used our equipment to go out, and he borrowed it for a couple weeks and edited it. And so, but if you can see it, like I said, I play it before and after every meeting for the last 2 weeks, and I'll do it probably the next month or so. But it's black and white, and it's basically, it's got, if you would describe it, it's got, I don't know the name of the song, because the last song I remembered
Don't
was...
give it away.
Huh?
Don't give it away. Watch it. It's really...
Yeah, you're right.
And it is
100%.
age appropriate. It's age appropriate from elementary right on up.
Because that would
And
be
it
great
sends
for
a
the
great
kids.
message.
That would be great for the kids to be able to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, call the high school, because I'm sure they got copies of it. He brought me in a copy, and I just have the one copy, but it's playing back.
Well, I think there's a little more modesty. These young gentlemen who are very talented, sounds like they apprenticed with you.
Well, they're graduates of remember that over the last couple of years, I haven't done it in the last year with that Film Frenzy
Right.
project. They were one of 3 groups on the high school that participated in the Film Frenzy, and they got interested in film and and they made, things on the run and editing, and these 2 kids are graduates of that, and it was worth training them for that.
So there was a little modesty here also on Ted's part.
I did it all by myself, and they're great.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to comment, it's interesting, and Jennifer Parks, when she was with us, she used to give us more school, this type of information, but I'm just wondering if maybe she could be encouraged because we're finding out from Ted some of the technical things going on at the school, that maybe she could give us, if Ted wasn't privy to some of the things that are going on in the technical end, maybe she emails this to you.
Right.
Maybe you could suggest that, could you include also some of the technical things that are going on in the school that relate to communication?
Terrific.
You mean Linda?
Yeah.
And I think there is a tech person at the high school, is there not, Ted?
I've got a new gentleman named
Yeah.
Fred, he's the new IT, and I'm working with him, and I'm training him on everything that's over there, and he's basically doing all the legwork on purchasing the new equipment and stuff that they need.
Would he be the appropriate contact person then?
He's more of the technician type,
Technician?
not,
Okay. He doesn't know. Well, we'll pursue that. We'll pursue that. Okay, to complete my report, I submitted an article to the Eel Camera regarding outage. This is what we've got right now on our website. It's really a neat little thing. If you ever have a power failure or wonder what's going on at your home, you're off island, use your mobile phone, you click on that, and it'll tell you, you can find out if you have service, if you don't, where there isn't service. It's fabulous. My husband was playing with it for hours the other day. He was just having a field day when Trenton went out. We also got a nice article. I gave Ted that too, and it was published, talking about the Communication Commission, how we're trying to add value, and we feel this is. And I received the updates. I mentioned the 3 lock boxes. I will show you next month for the survey purposes. We will write an article announcing it. We'll put an announcement on the web, Twitter, Facebook, about the survey. We're really going to try to push this survey as much as we can. And as I said, a quick video with, we want your input. So, that's where we're at with my report. Okay. Now we have a resignation by Lauren Smith. She wrote a nice note saying after considering things, she feels her time, focus, and energies would be better served in another capacity. It was a pleasure serving with you all. I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And I would like to make a motion to accept Lauren's resignation. Second, Sean. All in favor? Aye.
With regret.
With regret. And we wish her every success. Now we have a recommendation to appoint another commissioner. Last month, we were lucky enough to have 3 candidates for our 2 openings, and we all expressed our heartfelt desire that if an opening came in the near future, we would revisit Mr. Nielsen, Richard Nielsen III. And I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Nielsen as our next commissioner.
I'd like to take exception on that, only on this. There is a policy in the township relative to vacancies, which says the resignation of the commissioner is to be accepted actually by the township board at a regular meeting.
You're right.
And then a notice of vacancy should be published in the Eel Camera, including the deadline for which applications must be received. So that the vacancy now exists with the acceptance of Lawrence. And as we have done in the past, I think, and of course I won't be here, so if you want to put a 30-day limit, whatever you do, but give the public the opportunity to submit applications for the vacancy, and then go through the process. And that reconciles with what's in the policies and procedures manual.
Even though we had somebody waiting in the wings that we thought would be a very suitable commissioner?
I don't think it matters. The vacancy hasn't existed. Put it this way, there were 2 vacancies at that time. We interviewed 3. We nominated 2 and voted affirmatively on 2, and they're here tonight. No other vacancy existed at that point. A vacancy now exists tonight, and the process, I believe, should start over again. And if there are other people that are interested in applying, that's what sticks to what the policy and procedures manual says. And I'll submit this. It's section 9.0, 9.1 vacancies.
Then we will follow the procedure. And I'll put a little note in the Eel Camera and see how many applications we come in. But we are still personally, I'm very interested in Mr. Nielsen's interest in our organization. Okay. Is there any comment, public comment? None being offered? Then our next commission meeting is April 11th, 2012. Do I motion to adjourn?
Hold it. Did you say discussion? I had a distraction here with my camera.
Okay.
It didn't say public comment, and that's
Yes.
why I got confused.
Okay, Ernie, come on up.
Looking for public- Real quick.
Mr. Horvath.
Real quick. A couple of thoughts. The survey for the website is going out to the residents. It's my belief and observation over a short period of time, looking at websites in my research, that our website shouldn't just serve Groseal, and it's good we ask our residents what they would like to see, but I think it has a dual purpose of also marketing Groseal. When I go to different websites, it gives me a great impression if I'd like to follow up and maybe live in that community. Maybe I see something on that website I'd like to incorporate in my community and suggest. So if we just ask our people, what I'm suggesting is to get professional opinion if this website can serve a dual purpose, not only from your respondents of the survey, but an opinion if it can also serve as a marketing tool. If someone comes into this area and looks at our website, would that website attract them to come out and drive over here? A lot of these websites that I've looked at make me want to go to Fremont, Michigan, Ludington, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, just from the website.
Yet you're still here, Ernie.
Well, I'm still here, but I have other property. But that's a suggestion. I think you should get an opinion on that to see if it can serve as a marketing tool also, because if you're spending money and time, it should serve a dual purpose. That's only my opinion, but take it as a suggestion. The other thing is, if I was going to open up a restaurant on Macomb Street, and I see that township leased businesses are getting advertising, what would I be charged if I wanted to get on the cable channel information for 15 seconds for my business? Would I be charged for that?
We don't charge anybody, Ernie.
You would be definitely, because we know you've got deep pockets.
After getting this Mitt Romney campaign outfit,
And
I don't have any more deep pockets.
We want to start charging you by the word.
Okay, by the word.
Okay.
Well, then I make it shorter. So am I charged?
We have no charge.
You don't charge. Okay, so then they don't have a non-competitive advantage if Nate's is not advertising, or Perdino's. They're not in a non-competitive situation right now.
They don't charge.
They could put an ad up there.
No, they can't.
Then we're in a non-competitive situation.
We don't charge, is what I just said.
But they could put an ad up there. Is
I
that right or wrong?
think the difference is we just list them.
Advertising, I mean, Brian has asked the attorney to look into this, but basically, the people that are on the community bulletin board are there because if they do well, the township does well. The township's in business with them. Any other business that the township's not in business with can't advertise or can't be up there. That's how we've been operating over the last decade.
Wow, that's dangerous.
Well, that's my question. Am I in a non-competitive position?
Well, Ernie, I think, let me just throw this out, and maybe I'm wrong, and correct me if I am, but I think really what the suggestion Craig had was, this group look at that policy and reassess it again to actually determine the feasibility or the fairness of it, and I think that's also going to include the opinion of the township attorney as well.
Okay, I'm just
So
asking the question.
I think you raised an excellent point. We just need to do our due diligence first before I think any of us are actually able to respond accordingly to that.
That's fair.
Okay?
Thanks.
And thank you. Our next commission meeting is April 11th, and motion to adjourn. Second? Second. And all in favor? Aye. And we are done at 8:38.